I saw my mother's bank statement, and 12 years of my life started to unravel. Could you ever forgive someone who betrayed you like that? Rain lashed against the panoramic window of my office, reflecting the neon blur of Neo-Tokyo in 2025. I stared at the skyline, a million tiny screens blinking in the darkness, and felt utterly alone. Just hours ago, I'd been on top of the world. Vice President of Finance at Stellar Tech. A corner office, a hefty paycheck, the respect, or so I thought, of my colleagues. Then, Mr. Harding, my boss, called me into his office. He offered me a promotion, a bigger office, a bigger paycheck, with one catch. "Emma," he said, leaning back in his ergonomic chair, the city lights glinting off his chrome implants. "We need to massage the quarterly reports, just a little." Massage, that's what he called it. Making $5 million of losses disappear. Cooking the books. Financial fraud. Plain and simple. I refused. Of course, I refused. 12 years I'd given that company. 12 years of blood, sweat, and tears. All for what? To throw it away for a man who saw ethics as a minor inconvenience. "Are you sure about this, Emma?" he'd asked, his voice suddenly cold. "This is a very important opportunity." I stood my ground. "My integrity isn't for sale, Mr. Harding." He'd smiled, a chilling, empty smile. "Then I'm afraid we have no further need of your services." That was it. Just like that, I was out, fired. Walking out of Stellar Tech, the rain felt colder, the city lights harsher. I'd always been a rule follower, a believer in doing the right thing. Now I was unemployed, and my savings wouldn't last forever. Back at my apartment, a small prefab unit in a towering stack of similar units, I scrolled through job boards. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was like I'd vanished. Then I saw a message from Sarah, my sister. A simple, "Call me." Sarah and I had always been close, despite our differences. She was a social media influencer, obsessed with filters and followers, while I preferred spreadsheets and quarterly reports. But family is family, right? I called her. Her voice was shaky. "Emma, have you seen the news?" "What news?" I asked, already feeling a knot of dread forming in my stomach. "Stellar Tech. They're saying you were fired for incompetence." Incompetence. They were smearing me, blacklisting me, destroying my reputation. What kind of person does that? I slammed my fist on the table. "They can't do that. They already have," Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. "The story is everywhere." My phone buzzed. An anonymous message. "You should have kept your mouth shut." Who sent that? Harding? Someone else at Stellar Tech? My heart pounded in my chest. Days turned into weeks. I applied for countless jobs. Every interview was the same. Polite questions followed by a subtle, almost imperceptible coolness. The Stellar Tech story had poisoned the well. My savings dwindled. The prefab unit felt smaller, more claustrophobic. I was drowning, and no one was throwing me a lifeline. Then, another message from Sarah. "Meet me at the Cyber Cafe on 5th. I have something to tell you." The Cyber Cafe was a haven for freelancers and digital nomads, buzzing with the low hum of holographic projectors and the clatter of keyboards. Sarah was already there, sitting in a corner booth, her face pale. "What is it?" I asked, my voice tight. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone. I know who's behind the smear campaign." She showed me a screenshot. A private message from Mr. Harding to a well-known media bot, detailing the fabricated story about my incompetence. The message included specific instructions on how to spread the story and discredit me. "How did you get this?" I asked, my mind reeling. I have connections," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Look, Emma, I'm so sorry. I know this is awful." But that wasn't the worst of it. Scrolling further, I saw another message. A message from Sarah to Mr. Harding. "It's done. Everyone's talking about it." My sister. Had she been involved? Had she betrayed me? "Sarah," I said, my voice trembling. "What is this?" She burst into tears. I didn't mean for it to go this far. He promised me. He promised me exposure, more followers, more sponsorships. So my sister, driven by her insatiable hunger for social media fame, had helped destroy my career. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Harding could have done. Could I ever forgive her? I stood up, my hands shaking. I need to go. Back in my apartment, I sank onto the sofa, the rain still beating against the window. Betrayal. It was a bitter pill to swallow. Especially when it came from family. My phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. This one contained a file. Open it. It's time you knew the truth. Hesitantly, I clicked on the file. It was a collection of internal Stellar Tech documents, emails, spreadsheets, financial records. And in the middle of it all, a name I recognized. My mother. My mother had been a bookkeeper at Stellar Tech years ago before she retired. I hadn't spoken to her much since my father died. She'd always seemed distant. The documents revealed a pattern of fraudulent activity, embezzlement, tax evasion, money laundering, and my mother's name was all over it. She wasn't just a bookkeeper, she was deeply involved. Could it be true? Was my mother a criminal? I called her. She answered on the third ring, her voice hesitant. Emma, what's wrong? Mom, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I need to ask you something about Stellar Tech. She went silent. A long, drawn-out silence that spoke volumes. What do you know about it, Mom? I pressed. Nothing, she said, her voice trembling. I don't know anything. The documents say otherwise, Mom. They say you were involved in a massive fraud. She started to cry. It was a long time ago, Emma. I needed the money. Your father was sick. So she'd done it for my father, but did that justify it? And was Harding using my knowledge of her involvement as leverage? Was that why he'd wanted me to massage the reports? I ended the call, feeling numb. My career was in ruins. My sister had betrayed me, and now I discovered my mother was a criminal. What else could possibly go wrong? It was a small, unmarked box. Inside, a burner phone and a USB drive. A note attached to the phone simply said, "Use this. Be careful." I plugged the USB drive into my computer. It contained more documents, even more damning than the first set. These documents proved that Harding wasn't just covering up my mother's past actions. He was actively continuing the fraud on an even larger scale. He was siphoning millions of dollars into offshore accounts. And then I saw it. A file labeled Project Nightingale. It was a detailed plan to bankrupt a rival company, a smaller tech firm that was developing groundbreaking AI technology. Harding wanted to eliminate the competition by any means necessary. This was bigger than just my job. This was corporate sabotage, potentially ruining hundreds of lives. I had a choice to make. I could walk away, protect my mother, and try to rebuild my life, knowing that Harding would continue his criminal activities. Or I could expose him, risking everything, including my mother's freedom. What would you do? Could you betray your own mother to do the right thing? That night, I met with Sarah again. She was desperate to make amends. "I'm so sorry, Emma," she pleaded, her eyes red and swollen. "I didn't realize what I was doing." "I know," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But I need your help." I told her about the documents, about Harding's plan to bankrupt the rival company, about my mother's involvement. She listened in silence, her face growing paler with each revelation. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "I need you to use your social media influence to get the word out," I said. "I need you to expose Harding and Stellar Tech." She hesitated. "But that could destroy my career. I'll lose all my followers, my sponsorships." "Is that really all you care about?" I asked, my voice sharp. "Or do you want to actually do something good for once?" She looked down at her hands, her lip trembling. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I'll do it." Sarah leaked the documents to a series of anonymous blogs and news aggregators. The story spread like wildfire across the internet. Harding and Stellar Tech were under intense scrutiny. The stock price plummeted. The SEC launched an investigation. Harding was scrambling, trying to contain the damage. Then, my phone buzzed. A message from Harding. "Meet me at the docks, alone, or your mother pays the price." He was threatening my mother. He knew he was cornered, and he was desperate. I knew it was a trap, but I couldn't let him hurt my mother. I told Sarah where I was going, and she begged me not to go. "It's too dangerous, Emma. Let the police handle it." "I can't," I said. "My mother is counting on me." The docks were deserted. The only sound the lapping of waves against the concrete pilings. The neon city lights reflected in the dark water, creating an eerie glow. Harding was waiting for me, standing beside a sleek black hovercraft. 2 men stood behind him, their faces grim. "I was hoping you'd be reasonable, Emma," he said, his voice cold. "But you forced my hand." "Let my mother go, Harding," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Not until I have what I want," he said. "The original documents, the ones you leaked." "I don't have them anymore," I lied. He smiled, a chilling smile. "Don't play games with me, Emma. I know you have them. Give them to me and I'll let your mother walk away. Refuse, and she disappears." He gestured to his men. They grabbed me, forcing me onto the hovercraft. "Where are you taking me?" I demanded. "Somewhere you won't be able to cause any more trouble," Harding said. The hovercraft sped across the water, heading towards the open sea. I was trapped, helpless and terrified for my mother. Suddenly the hovercraft lurched. There was a loud bang, and the engine sputtered and died. We were dead in the water. Harding swore. What the hell was that then? Another hovercraft appeared, cutting through the darkness. It was Sarah at the helm, with a group of journalists and police officers. She had called the authorities. She had saved me. Harding and his men were quickly apprehended. The police took me and my mother into protective custody. The investigation into Stellar Tech revealed the full extent of Harding's crimes. He was arrested and charged with fraud, embezzlement, and corporate sabotage. My mother was also arrested for her involvement in the earlier fraud, but her sentence was significantly reduced due to her cooperation with the investigation. I testified against Harding, providing all the evidence I had gathered. The trial was a media sensation, and Harding was eventually convicted and sentenced to a long prison term. It wasn't a perfect ending. My mother had to face the consequences of her actions. Sarah had to rebuild her reputation, and I had to start over. But I had my integrity. And that was worth more than any job, any paycheck, any social media fame. I started my own consulting firm, helping companies build ethical and sustainable business practices. Sarah became an advocate for responsible social media use, and my mother, after serving her time, dedicated herself to helping other ex-offenders reintegrate into society. We had all made mistakes. We had all hurt each other, but we had also found a way to forgive each other, to learn from our past, and to build a better future. The city lights still blinked in the darkness, but now they seemed a little brighter, a little more hopeful. I had faced betrayal, revenge, and corporate greed, and I had chosen my integrity. What would you have done? Would you have risked everything to expose the truth? Or would you have walked away? I hope my story has inspired you to stand up for what you believe in, even when it's hard. Don't let anyone compromise your values. Your integrity is your most valuable asset. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more true crime-inspired mysteries. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Write what you choose. The weight of my choices still sits heavy. I often wonder if I did the right thing, exposing my own mother like that. Was justice worth that price? The phone rang. It was Daniel, my ex-boyfriend. We hadn't spoken since before Stellar Tech imploded. He had always been supportive, but the pressure of my career and our differing goals had driven us apart. "Emma," he said, his voice hesitant, "I know things have been crazy, but I wanted to see how you're doing. It felt strange, hearing his voice after so long. There was a warmth there, a genuine concern that I hadn't realized I missed. "I'm okay," I said, avoiding any real details, trying to pick up the pieces. "I read about what happened," he said. "About your mother, about everything. I'm so sorry, Emma. That's awful." "Thanks, Daniel." A long pause stretched between us, filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. "Listen," he said, "a cybersecurity startup. We could use someone with your financial expertise, and more importantly, with your integrity." A cybersecurity startup. After everything I'd been through, the thought of diving into the digital world felt daunting. But Daniel's offer was tempting. It was a chance to rebuild my career, to work on something meaningful, and maybe, just maybe, to rekindle something with him. "I don't know, Daniel," I said, hesitant. "Cybersecurity isn't exactly my area of expertise. I'm pretty good with Excel, though." "We can teach you the technical stuff," he said. "What we can't teach is honesty, and you have that in spades, Emma. You should know what I'm going to say. I always admired that about you." So I took the leap. I joined Daniel's startup, CipherSafe. It was a small team, a bunch of young, brilliant coders and cybersecurity experts, all driven by a shared mission: to protect people and businesses from online threats. The work was challenging, but rewarding. I learned about firewalls, encryption, and malware, concepts that had previously seemed like a foreign language. Daniel was a supportive boss, and it was surprisingly easy to pick up the new concepts. It was clear he believed in me, and that belief gave me the confidence to push myself. And yes, there were definitely sparks flying between us again. But something felt off, a nagging feeling that I couldn't quite shake. One evening, while working late, I stumbled upon a hidden folder on the company server. It was password protected, but with my financial background, I knew a few tricks. After a couple of tries, I cracked the password. The folder contained a series of encrypted files. I managed to decrypt one of them. It was a contract between CipherSafe and a shadowy organization known only as the Syndicate. The Syndicate was a known haven for hackers and cyber criminals. What was CipherSafe doing working with them? A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. Could Daniel be involved in something shady? Was I making another mistake, trusting the wrong person? I confronted Daniel. He denied any involvement. "Emma, you have to believe me," he said, his face pale. "I had no idea this contract existed." "Then who signed it?" I demanded. "Who is working with the Syndicate?" He hesitated, then his eyes darted away. I don't know," he stammered. "Look, let me look into it, Emma. I'll get to the bottom of this, I promise. Please don't jump to conclusions." But I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. He had disappeared without a trace. His apartment was empty, his phone was disconnected. He had vanished, and I was left with more questions than answers. Had he run away because he was guilty? Or was he in danger? I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. I had to find him and uncover the truth about CipherSafe and the Syndicate. I started digging, using my financial skills to trace the flow of money through the company's accounts. It was like following a breadcrumb trail, leading me deeper and deeper into a web of deceit and corruption. I discovered a series of shell corporations, offshore accounts, and encrypted communications. CipherSafe wasn't just a cybersecurity startup. It was a front for something far more sinister. They were developing and selling advanced hacking tools to the Syndicate. Tools that could be used to steal data, disrupt infrastructure, and even manipulate elections. And Daniel was right in the middle of it. He wasn't just an employee, he was a key player. But why? What had driven him to betray his own values and work with criminals? I knew I needed help. I contacted Inspector Davies, the lead detective on the Stellar Tech case. She had always been fair and professional, and I knew I could trust her. I told her everything I had discovered about CipherSafe and the Syndicate, and about Daniel's disappearance. She listened carefully, her expression grim. "This is serious, Emma," she said. "We need to find Daniel, and we need to shut down CipherSafe before they can do any more damage." We launched a joint investigation, working together to gather evidence and track down Daniel. It was a race against time. We knew that the syndicate would do anything to protect their interests, and that Daniel was in grave danger. The trail led us to Neo-Shanghai, a sprawling metropolis on the other side of the world. A city of towering skyscrapers, bustling markets, and hidden alleyways. Oh, it was a haven for criminals and hackers, a place where anything was possible for the right price. We tracked Daniel to a remote warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The warehouse was heavily guarded, surrounded by armed men and surveillance cameras. We knew we couldn't storm the warehouse without putting Daniel's life at risk. So we came up with a plan. I used my financial skills to hack into CipherSafe's accounts, draining their funds and disrupting their operations. Sarah, using her social media expertise, launched a disinformation campaign, spreading rumors and false information about the syndicate's activities. The goal was to create chaos and confusion, to distract the syndicate, and give us a window of opportunity to rescue Daniel. The plan worked. As the syndicate's resources were diverted to deal with the financial and reputational damage, we slipped into the warehouse undetected. We found Daniel locked in a cell, bruised and battered, but alive. He told us that he had been forced to work with the syndicate after they threatened his family. He had been trying to find a way to escape, but he had been constantly watched. Together, we overpowered the guards and escaped the warehouse. With Daniel's help, we were able to gather enough evidence to shut down CipherSafe and dismantle the syndicate's operations. The hacking tools they had developed were confiscated, and their leaders were arrested. Daniel was cleared of all charges, but he was deeply shaken by his experience. He had lost his company, his reputation, and almost his life. But he had also learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of greed and the importance of integrity. He decided to dedicate his life to fighting cybercrime, using his skills to protect others from the same fate he had suffered. As for me, I continued to work with Inspector Davies, helping her investigate financial crimes and expose corporate corruption. I had found my calling, my purpose in life. It wasn't easy. I still faced challenges and setbacks. But I knew that I was making a difference, that I was fighting for what was right.